It takes only a second for things to change. It takes only a second to achieve what you have been dreaming of. But as you wait for your blessings, why not use this opportunity to read my stories and be happy? If you are not happy, then you are frustrated. Choose one. It's a choice you have to make. Let's read together, Arby? She tried to draw Frank's attention. But he was immersed in his discussion with Micah, his friend. Georgina tried to lure him to a corner, which he finally complied. What is it, Georgina? I am having a sweet discussion with my friend. And you are just so determined to ruin everything. Are you girls born that way? She ignored his remarks. And she pointed to a particular direction. Look over there. You see that guy? She asked. He is a member of the gang. Frank frowned his face. What are you really saying? You think too much, Georgina, and I understand why you do so, but... Listen, Frank, she interrupted fiercely. Let's leave here now. We are better off hiding in the house. For how long? Frank replied. You are pissing me off. I am doing this for your sake. I have known Micah for a very long time. That I am in this state today is all thanks to him. So, what are you trying to tell me, girl? Micah intervened as he tried to resolve the issue. Georgina was frowning, so was Frank. I will take you guys to the room, where you will give me all the details that I need. I assure you, Miss Georgina, you are in a safe hand. Just trust me this once. So he brought pen and paper and he began to write down what she was saying. The Rolls-Royce cars crashed into the scene. All men were in suits and putting on a black goggle. The first guy came out of the car and he lit up his cigarette. He tried to scan the area. Who are you guys? The security men at the gate asked. But before he could answer them, orders flew in and they had no choice but to open the gate. The 4 cars went in as the guards looked helplessly. Micah was informed that the gang had arrived. So, he smiled at Frank and Georgina, who were not aware of the recent development. I will be back, my dear friends. So, he left with the other officers and they went straight to them. The guy was leaning on the car and busy with his cigarette. Where are the goods? He asked with a deep voice. But Micah stretched his hand. My cash. The guy in suit smiled. Then he knocked gently on the door and another guy came out. This guy had a parcel in his hand filled with US dollars. The rest had been wired into your account. Now, where are the goods? Just a minute, he said with a smile. Don't keep me waiting, Micah. His heart was heavy. His conscience was guilty. But he had the money. Frank, they are here. The men from the headquarters. They are those that will rescue your parents and destroy the gang. Frank was relieved. Finally. What could I have done without you, Micah? I am your friend, Frank. I would do more if it was necessary. However, Georgina's instinct was telling her otherwise. She just didn't want to meet those people. But she had no choice since Frank had already accepted to do so. Micah led them out and they were also guarded by some policemen. From afar, she glanced at the first Rolls-Royce and spotted the logo of that gang. She instantly knew they were not policemen. Frank, these men are from the gang. Doors opened and the men in suit unleashed their rifles. This resulted to a heavy exchange of gunpowder. The sounds echoed in the air. These men were easily picking up the police officers with ease. They were so skillful in gun shooting, and soon they began to throw grenades at the officers, leading to massive explosions. Georgina punched Micah on the face and she had to dodge countless flying bullets just to escape through the backyard. Not even one single member of the gang was hurt. But for the officers, they lost many bodies. The remaining had to escape from their base to avoid being gunned down as well. Bodies littered everywhere, fire outrage due to grenades that were used. And lots of damages on the houses and other facilities in that area. Frank was captured, but no trace of Georgina. They forced him inside the car and began their journey back to the park. So emotional, right? We continue after you like, subscribe and share. Frank was reunited with his parents. They were not in harsh condition, but they couldn't move around as they wished. It had been a while since he saw them, so he hugged them with so much excitement. "My son, you have joined us also. They came to our house and lied to us that you wanted to see us. They even provided some evidence that made us to believe them. Before we knew it, they brought us here. And since then, no explanation, no apology. Dad, who is in charge here?" Frank asked with rage. But his dad only smiled. He didn't respond. Suddenly, the door opened. First came in was the guards and then a beautiful, charming lady. Her hair was very long that it almost touched her buttocks. She dressed in a sexy red garment. She also had a black goggle. Frank opened his mouth in disbelief. "Sister, it's you? You are the leader?" She ignored all his questions and then she sat majestically on what looked like a throne. "Where is Georgina?" she asked with a very low tone. "What do you want with the girl? I can't believe that my own sister is behind all these evils. Who led you into this?" Frank asked. "You, of course," she replied before smiling back at him. She tightened her face again. "The family is back the way it should be. Mum, Dad, here is your beloved son. The one you preferred over me. You did everything that he ever wanted. Trained him in the best school, and what was my own share? Mockery, insults, you treated me like trash. I lived in loneliness. I desired your warm embrace. I wanted a parent that will hold me tight when I am afraid. None of you did that for me." "Stop, Jessica!" Frank shouted. "They never hated you. It was all in your mind. You made it all up." "Really?" She nodded her head. "Well, your lack of care and affection had turned me into what I am today. I have other things to say to you. But not until I capture Georgina. We have our own scores to settle. Leave her out of this. That girl is innocent. Can't you just be lenient for once in your life?" Jessica got furious and landed a slap on Frank's face. "Any more word from you, I will order them to shoot you to death. Stay here in this room. Anything you want you shall get. But until I lay my hands on Georgina, none of you will leave this place." As she turned to leave, Frank confronted her and said, "If you lay a finger on that innocent girl, you shall face my wrath. Try me. Is that all you have to say? I thought you had something threatening to say. The whole South Africa is under me. And don't forget, we have a tracker right inside her belly. It's just a matter of time until we lay our hands on her. And before your very eyes, I shall tear her into pieces, limb by limb, and feed her to my lions. You have no idea, Frank, how long I have waited for this to happen, for me to pay you back for all the humiliations that I had suffered in this family. Now is my turn, and you, Frank, shall feel my wrath. Your case is too little for me to handle. Just watch and see." She gave Frank an evil smile and then she stood from her throne and left the room. Frank knew that if he didn't come up with a brilliant idea to save himself and his family, they would be in a big problem by the time Georgina is finally captured. Georgina tried to stay hidden. For 2 days, she neither ate nor drank. She had to sleep in cheap hotels waiting for the right opportunity to escape from South Africa. Due to what happened at the police headquarters, the South African government had taken the initiative and had entered into deeper investigation for what really happened that day. Officer Micah was summoned by Jessica. "Yes, what do you seek from me?" "Georgina is still in this town. I want you to find her and bring her back to me in 1 week." I said, 1 week. "I will do just that," he replied. And then he left for the task. Frank was surprised seeing Micah. He pretended to have sneaked in and then he acted like he wanted to save Frank. "That won't be easy," Frank said to Micah. "I can't leave my parents behind." "Do you have Georgina's number?" Micah asked, acting as though he truly cared. Yes, I do, replied Frank, and he handed the number to Micah. He could also track her through the device in her belly, but he would need the number to call her out of wherever she was hiding. Please, protect that girl. Be her angel. Love her with your heart and don't let any harm befall her. Frank pleaded. Even if it means sending her back to Nigeria. Can you do that for me? He asked. You know I will do anything for you. I will make sure that she falls not into the hands of the enemy. Frank hugged him so tightly with all his strength. I trust you, my good friend, he said as he patted Micah's back. Jessica was the head of the gang. But in actuality, the founder was the president of South Africa. This cult had been in existence for some time now. But they gained more flame and influence when Mr. John became the president of South Africa. Jessica and Frank were the only kids of Mr. and Mrs. Lancelot. Jessica ran away from the family because she believed that her parents didn't like her. She was the only one that washed the plates and other domestic tasks. As a lady, she wanted love and attention. They just didn't understand what she really wanted. They bought things for her. They provided all her material needs, but in doing so, they failed to recognize that she also needed their pampering and affection. So, one morning during their breakfast, her mum scolded her based on the way she was eating. She grew furious, grabbed her things and left. She was about 8 years then. Her parents were rather surprised. But they were hopeful that she would return to the house later that day, which she never did. As a child, when she hurried out of the house in anger, she had to sit by the corner crying over what had happened back in the house. Her face was resting on her knees while she sat on an iron seat. Not until she heard a honk, and she raised her face. And before her eyes was a man leaning on his car and surrounded by an escort. My name is Mr. John, he said with a smile and a charming look. And that was the beginning of the mayhem that was to be unleashed. Little Jessica hopped into the car with Mr. John and the rest was history. He raised her like a fighter. She was good in kung fu, wrestling, boxing, shooting guns and even seducing men. It was never easy, the training exercises she had to go through, 500 push-ups, press-up, marathon race, swimming, shooting and so on. But all these while living with Mr. John, she had not forgotten her family. She still missed them. She was waiting for the perfect time to avenge her past. To pay them back for all the negligence that she went through. Her plan was to use Micah to capture Georgina. But if he couldn't do that in the space of 1 week, Jessica would have to use the device in her belly. That was not only a tracking device. She had planted a bomb in her belly. All she had to do was press the remote and Georgina would explode into shreds. But she wanted to capture her alive. That's why she had never activated the bomb in her belly. Meanwhile, Micah was using that device in her belly to track her location. He was getting closer to Georgina according to the readings of that tracking device. Once he found her, he would put her in the car and take her back to Jessica. Jessica met with the pot-belly man and she paid him back his money. That lady is mine, she said to him. Stay off now. You can have other ladies, 1,000,000 if you wish. But you see Georgina? I have some scores to settle with her. The pot-belly man declined as he laughed it off as mere jokes. I paid for her services, lady. It just happened that she escaped. But she is the one I want. They began to tussle for power. Jessica smiled sexily at him and she waved her long curly hair. She was quite a beauty to behold. If I find Georgina before you, then she is mine. But if you and your guys get to her before me, then she is yours. Do we have a deal? Jessica asked. The pot-belly man nodded. Yes, we have. He was already aroused by the sexy lady standing before him. The fragrance from her body was so sweet to behold. Her curves were irresistible. So, the pot-belly man sent his own squad to go and get Georgina as fast as they could. It was now a tussle between Micah, who is working for Jessica, and the pot-belly gang, which is also a group under the same cult. But they have their own modus operandi. Georgina was already running low on cash. She needed to come up with a plan on how to escape from this notorious gang. She had already amassed a lot of debts in the hotel that she was staying in, and they had given her until the end of that day to clear her bill or face the penalties attached. So, she sat alone in her room thinking of the best and possible solution that would save herself from the looming assault that would come as a result of her inability to clear her bills. She heard a heavy banging on the door and her heart flew out of her mouth. It must be them, she said to herself. And she was right. 2 men in uniform dragged her outside and locked the door. They took her to the boss and threw her on the ground before him. She held his leg and begged him with tears all over her face. Instead of sympathy, the man was laughing at her. The group was making a mockery of her as well. "I will pardon you," he finally said. "After all, I am a man of understanding. But like they say, nothing is free." They all bursted into laughter at his mocking words. "I will do anything. Please don't kill me, sir," she begged. "Stand on your feet. You are a special and beautiful lady. I will give you a job in my hotel. I know you will like it. Hence, you shall be the cleaner. You will serve food to my guests along with other maids like you. You will always service my guests anyhow they want it." Then he smiled at his next option. "You will be a stripper and a dancer. There are special events hosted every weekend here. My guests had desired a stripper and also service girls. You know I can't disappoint them." Then he went silent for some seconds. He said to Georgina, who was already trembling and anxious, "Every night, I want you in my room to warm my bed. Don't worry, I shall pay you well. But for the rest of other tasks, you are not going to receive a dime. It is a way of paying back your debts. And until you are done with the clearance, you shall never leave this place. Now go back to your room. Go!" He shouted, and Georgina anxiously ran back into her room and locked the door. She remembered her siblings back in Nigeria. Who would take care of them? She had come to South Africa to hustle and make money, but the story was quite the opposite. These conditions given to her by the owner of this hotel were very similar to the one she experienced with the gang. "Where are you, Frank?" she cried. "I thought you were my guardian angel sent to me by God in heaven. Why did you let me down, Frank?" She could not control her emotions. Suddenly she grabbed a knife and slashed herself, and then she landed on the ground. She woke up and realized that she had bandages on her body. She didn't die as she had expected. The owner of the hotel was sitting next to her on the bed. They didn't even take her to the hospital, instead they invited a doctor who came in to treat her. The doctor said, "You will be fine in 2 days. And then you can resume your work. Georgina, I would let this pass. But if you make such move again, I shall double your punishment. Do not tamper with me." He stood and left. "I thought it worked. Why didn't death take me away? Do I still have anything to live for?" She breathed heavily. And then she closed her eyes. In the early morning of the next day she received a heavy splash of water on her face and she hastily snapped out of her sleep. "You are no longer a guest in this hotel. Here is your bucket and over there is the mop. Take it and get to work." It baffled Georgina that a little girl of such age could have the temerity to treat her that way. She also threw the bucket at her body without remorse. She was the daughter of the manager and owner of that hotel. Georgina closed her eyes in deep rage. Her face was really tightened. It was then she noticed that this was no ordinary water. This was a bucket of water that had been used to wash the bedsheets and pillowcases used by customers. It was really stinking. She had to pull her clothes off, and she had no other one to replace them, so she just wore her bra and her trousers. She hastily washed the shirt and spread it for the sun to dry. They had the laundry machine which could have done the job in minutes, but they didn't grant her access to it. As she walked by in shame, they laughed at her and pointed fingers at her. But she ignored them and focused on her work. She began to mop the floors, moving from one room to the other. Some rude customers would walk by and grab her buttocks, others would admire her shape, some would even want to touch her tit or even hug her just to feel her chest. Her heart was shattered. But all she said was this: "If this is your will, God, I have accepted it." Poor girl. Tears began to roll down her cheek. When it was time for lunch, the staffs gathered for their meal, but Georgina was not allowed into the circle. She was sitting alone by one corner outside the hotel. She was thinking about her life and the terrible mistake that she had made. Then someone tapped her back and she freaked out as though her life was in danger. The lady was surprised. "I didn't mean to scare you," she said to Georgina. "I noticed you have not eaten since morning. Here is my own ration for lunch. We can share it together." Georgina didn't buy her idea. She had been betrayed by too many people that it was now difficult for her to trust anybody. "I mean no harm," she said with a smile, and then she stretched what she was carrying closer to Georgina. But she was still struggling to believe her words. That was the same way her friend and classmate, Jessica, received her some time ago and had promised her a better life in South Africa. However, she was very hungry. She had dispensed a lot of energy without tasting anything from morning until that point. She would collapse if nothing entered her stomach. So, she had no other choice but to accept the food. "My name is Jane. I am from Nigeria. I came here to look for a better job opportunities, but here I'm, stranded and confused. It was my boyfriend who bad planned everything for me. He made me to relocate from Nigeria to this place. Things were rosy at first, until he began to cheat on me. Initially I was suspecting him, but when I finally caught him in the act, I realized that it was this lady that was feeding him and providing every of his financial needs. I wept. I wept uncontrollably like a baby. As if that was not enough, she ordered my boyfriend to chase me out of the house. He had no choice, I guess. If he had refused her order, she would have dumped him for another guy. For him to continue his relationship and the benefits coming from his South African girlfriend, he had to break up with me. That was how I wound up here." Georgina felt empathetic towards her after hearing the story. She cuddled Jane as both began to cry. "We should not allow this predicament to ruin our lives. We have to find a way to leave this place, okay? But we are not citizens of this country. Where do you want us to go?" "Return to Nigeria. I think I have a better plan," a voice said. And both of them turned around only to see their colleague coming towards them. "I overheard your stories. No need to bother you with mine. But I too am a Nigerian. My name is Kate Henshaw and I come from Western Nigeria. If we are to survive in this situation, we have to work together. We work as a team. And I've got a plan." Coincidentally, Kate is from Yoruba. Jane is from Hausa. Georgina is from the Igbo region. They all burst into laughter when they realized these truths about themselves. "Please tell us your plan," they asked their new friend. Micah was able to locate Georgina. He successfully arrived at the hotel with his men. But in order not to cause a scene, they had to lodge in that same hotel. He held the device in his hand while he moved around the resident. He was in his police costume. No one would dare suspect the ill of him. The three friends gathered and their plan was to leave the hotel that same night. "Is this your plan?" Jane asked Kate. She hissed in anger. "I thought you had a better plan. You only gave us a glimpse of hope." "We can do it," said Georgina. "Tonight, I will be in his room to service the old man as he had demanded." "Have you done that before?" Kate asked with a widened eye. "Today will be my first. And it will also be my last." The three ladies looked at one another. The plan was already out, they had to escape by all means. Georgina was now the master planner. "I will sneak into his room. Of course, in a sexy clothes. My intention is not to service that dog. Never. I just want to get a hold of his keys and his card." "Card for what?" Jane asked. The other two just looked at her and she looked away shyly. "Who will drive the car?" Jane asked again. "Can you drive?" Georgina asked Kate, who only smiled in return. I do it with one hand, she said. Sharp. What about the guards? How do we evade their eyes? Jane asked another question and she received a heavy knock from Georgina. She was now rubbing her hand on her head. Don't worry, Jane. We have got lots of guns here. Enough to wage a war. I have never touched a gun before. I cannot shoot either. I don't want to do this, please. You guys are making this look like a real war. Jane replied with fear and anxiety. From the very day you set your feet into this land, you entered a warfare, my friend. Georgina stood up, walked up to her and said, "Be brave, sweetheart. It's just a night and all these will be over." She smiled at her and then made her way to her duty post. She is a lioness. She frightens me a lot, Jane said to Kate. Of course she is. We all are. Even the soft-hearted must rise to defend themselves in difficult and tough times. My car kept moving around and his presence had already been noticed by the guards working for the owner of this hotel. "Officer, my car is here." "I sense danger," said the chief in command of the guards, talking to his boss, the manager. "Let him be. Tomorrow I shall confront him." "It takes just money to settle the corrupt officials," the boss replied. It was almost time. The girls are getting ready for the war. Georgina was already in the bathroom, and as the water splashed on her body, she reminisced all her moves on her evil boss. She gently styled her hair and also her makeup. She was getting ready to enter his room, to execute her plans perfectly without mistake. Kate and Jane slept in the same room. But before then, Georgina had sneaked into the manager's chamber. She grabbed some rifles and other explosives which would be enough for the gun battle. So, before she left for the manager's room, she handed the guns to them. "I will be back in 30 minutes. Georgina said. Then they hugged one another and she also provided them with a device which they must have at all times for communication purposes. "Put this in your ear so that I will be able to reach you guys in case of emergency." The two young ladies planted it into their ear and they were ready for the battle. The boss was in his quarters, surrounded by ladies that were massaging him. They even rubbed their hands all through his body. He just relaxed like a king on the throne. Some would feed him with the wine while he smoked his marijuana and puffing it at these ladies. They were about 30 in number, but none of them were happy with his maltreatment. He had no regard for these innocent ladies. And for them to survive, they just have to pretend that they were happy. Suddenly, Georgina walked into his chambers. "Oh, here she comes. Another dog is here to service my bed. As you can see, sweetheart, there are already 30 dogs here with me. Could you just join them for the job, after which you would receive your fat wages? What do you think would be their fate? Subscribe, like, comment and share for next episode.